Hey guys, it's Lane with Tim's Nation. I'm here today to go through my army list that I'm bringing against DJ's Grey Knights tonight. I've got my DeathWatch. After a few test runs and some test games, and even a test tournament this past weekend, I've narrowed down what I'm bringing to the Columbus Arch City GT this coming weekend. So we'll kind of go through how everything is going to work, how everything interacts, enhancements, all that sort of thing. So first of all, for those of you who don't know, DeathWatch's special rules. They get Oath of Moment, but they do not get Space Marine Doctrines. They do get their own mission tactics, which kind of function like Space Marine Doctrines. You actually get 3 of them, and in my command phase, I can pick 1 to be active for the entire battle round, and they can each only be used once. So I get 3 of them, use them once. The benefits are, I forget the names of them, but the first one is the entire army shooting and combat gets lethal hits. Another one, the entire army shooting and combat gets sustained hits. And the third one, the entire army shooting and combat. Any 6s to hit become precision. So that might be useful in this game against some Grey Knight characters, especially if I pull the assassination secondary, can help with that. But yeah, the DeathWatch, we've got some juicy stratagems as well. I have 2 kill teams in my list, and one of the nice things about DeathWatch stratagems is that a lot of them benefit shooting, and anytime I use a stratagem for 1 CP, it affects 2 kill teams. Now, that's not any of the units. Like I've got some standalone Terminator squads and Receptor squads. Those aren't considered kill teams, but the Proteus kill teams I have are. So for 1 CP, I can put a stratagem on 2 kill teams, and then I also have a Terminator squad with a captain in it, and then he can do the free one. So I can essentially have a stratagem that affects 3 different squads for 1 CP. Some of the stratagems I have, for example, are Teleportarium. This is super useful, especially when we're playing the tactical objectives where at the end of my opponent's turn, I can pick up, for 1 CP, I can pick up 2 kill teams or 1 regular unit, and it goes into basically reserves and comes down as deep strike in my turn. Super useful for scoring objectives and secondaries, primaries and secondaries. Some of the other ones I have an anti-infantry one where it makes all the guns in the unit anti-infantry 2-up or anti-monster 5-up. I also have another one that gives me extra 6 inches of range to my guns and extra AP. And the third one that lets basically makes all the weapons in a unit assault, so they can advance and still shoot, and also makes them ignore cover. So there's a lot of power and specifically shooting, and I get a lot of value from being able to use this on multiple teams. So let's go take a look at the list right now. A little more paint than there was in some of these last weeks, but we're not quite there yet. So, but bear with me. Here we go. Check out the list. All right, this is today's DeathWatch. This is what I'm taking to the Arch City GT this weekend in Columbus, Ohio. So first off, I have 2 characters. I've got a Terminator captain, so he will be leading a unit of Terminators, of course. He has an enhancement on him. It's called Tome of Ectoclades. It's a steep priced enhancement. It's 40 points, but what it does is once per game in my command phase, I can pick 2 Oath of Moment subjects, or Oath of Moment targets. This is not focused or does not function like Gilliman's double Oath of Moment thing where you have to kill one then the other. It just picks 2 and it's active for the entire battle round. I don't have to go in any particular order. It is only once per game, but there are certainly times when I want to go and try and kill 2 big or important units in a single turn. And it's super useful for that. Of course, as the Terminator captain, he attaches to Terminators. He gives his unit re-rolling all charges. Or re-rolling a charge roll. This is kind of nice because I'll often be deep striking with that unit and have to make a 9-inch charge. It's a little bit more helpful if he's able to re-roll that charge for free. And then, of course, as a captain, a Space Marine captain, he lets me use a stratagem for free on the unit that he's attached to. The only other character I have is a Calidus Assassin. She is great. In the tournament this past weekend that I went to, she was super valuable. Even a few times I forgot to use her ability to make my opponent's one of their stratagems more expensive in terms of CP. Once per game after an opponent has used a strat, she can activate her ability, and that stratagem becomes an extra CP more expensive for the rest of the game. A couple times I forgot to use that. But what I loved about her is that she, at the end of every one of my opponent's turns, I can pick her up if she's not in engagement range and just deep strike her essentially on my turn. Super clutch for taking secondaries, taking objectives, that sort of thing. And in this past tournament, she had a duel with a Vindicare assassin where she shot him with her flamer, did a couple wounds, charged him in combat, did another wound, and he was still alive after all that. And then when he fell back from her, I overwatched him and finished him off that way. It took 3 rounds of attacks, basically, but she was able to fight a Vindicare and win that battle. But again, her super utility. She's also a lone operative, so you can't shoot her if you're outside of 12 inches. She fights first, so she's got a little flamer weapon. Great little piece. And as I've said before, it lets me have a metal model in my army, which just does my old man heart good. All right, after we've got characters, we have 2 Proteus kill teams. These are kind of the beefiest units in my army. Each of these units is 330 points. They're mixed kill teams. This means I've got a mix of models in here, as you can see from the pictures. Each squad is 10 men. It's got 5 veterans. 4 of the veterans in each squad have heavy weapons. One of them has a DeathWatch Thunderhammer. I've got 4 Terminators in each squad because that's the most Terminators you can take in these. 3 of them can take heavy weapons. So anytime a Terminator can take a heavy weapon in my army, they've got a Cyclone missile launcher. So they were great for anti-tank or anti-infantry. 1 Terminator with a Thunderhammer and a Storm Shield, and then 1 Biker. The Biker's there. He gives me a little extra mobility in the unit. Also, because he's attached to the kill team, he has the infantry keyword, so he can go through ruins. He can pass through breachable terrain. And by having a 5th T5 model in there, the whole unit is functionally T5 when someone shoots at it, unless for some reason the number of T4 models outnumbers the T5 models. But whenever I take damages on this unit, I'm always taking the T4 models first so that the unit is functionally T5 throughout the game. Now, as far as heavy weapons, the 2 squads are identical other than the heavy weapons. One of them has 4 frag cannons. These guys just put out a ton of shots. They are D3, rapid fire D3. They only have an 18-inch range, so I have to get within 9 inches to get rapid fire, but they do also have blast. So if I'm going into a 10-man squad and I'm within rapid fire range, they are 2 D3 plus 2 shots each. So that's a ton of shots off of 4 guys. And remember, I do have a stratagem that allows me to extend the range of the unit's guns and its AP by 1, but I extend the unit by the range by 6 inches, which means I become rapid fire within 12 inches for those. So look for that to happen sometime throughout this game. But otherwise, the shots are strength 7, AP 1, 2 damage. So great for tearing through Marines. The other squad has 4 Infernus heavy flamers. The Infernus Heavy Flamers are a combi heavy bolter or heavy flamer. Basically, in this edition, I just choose which profile I want to shoot. I can either fire the heavy flamer, which is just a Space Marine heavy flamer, or I can fire it as a heavy bolter. Either one will work. So one's obviously better for Overwatch and that sort of thing. But those are the 2 kill teams. Their special rule for Proteus kill teams is anytime they attack a unit that is half strength or above, they get +1 to hit. That's shooting and fighting. So super valuable there. On to my next units, I have 2 squads of the Plasma Receptors. I love these guys. They drop in 3 inches away. So whenever they deep strike, they can deep strike just outside of 3 inches. This is great for stealing objectives or jumping into corners to do secondaries. And I've given all these guys plasma, the Plasma Decimators. So, and in this past weekend, I used them quite a bit in the tournament. I was overcharging pretty frequently, and I think I killed more of my own Inceptors than my opponents did. They rolled a lot of 1s, but they were still super valuable, and I loved having them. Their damage output is surprisingly good because they are twin-linked, and especially when that goes into Oath of Moment, they're rerolling. They can put out a lot of damage in addition to being super utility. I've got 2 DeathWatch Terminator squads. So DeathWatch Terminator squads are a little different than regular Space Marine Terminator squads. They are 5 points more expensive for a 5-man, so they're 210 points. But with that, I can take 3 heavy weapons in a 5-man. So that means each of these squads has 3 Cyclone missile launchers, putting out a ton of crack shots or frag shots. And each of these 5-man squads has 2 Terminators with heavy Thunderhammer and Storm Shield, just making them a little more durable. Anytime a DeathWatch Terminator squad completes a charge, any units that are engagement range have to take a battle shock test immediately. On to the vehicles, we've got 1 Hail Strike Storm Speeder. The Hail Strike just puts out a variety of small shots designed to take out infantry. We've got some heavy stubbers. We've got a Gatling cannon. We've got some frag storm grenade launchers. But the important thing is that after I'm done shooting, I pick 1 unit that was hit by a shot from this unit, from this model, and for the rest of that shooting phase, my entire army gets extra AP against that target. So it's a way of increasing my AP a second time in addition to the stratagem. Now the speeder can also deep strike. I told a fellow Marine player this weekend about that. He did not realize he was able to deep strike his speeders, and it's super useful sometimes. Then I've got 2 of the good old Whirlwinds. These guys are great. Their Whirlwind launchers have a 72-inch range. They are D6 plus 3 shots blast, and they are strength 8, AP2, 2 damage. So they can do some work from range. They also each have a 100 killer missile on them. The 100 killer missiles are great this edition. Don't forget about them. They're ballistic skill 2, and obviously with Oath of Moment, you get rerolls on the hits and the wounds. AP3, D6 damage. They're a lot more effective than they have been in past editions, where you might take one shot with them and miss. With the rerolls, they become super valuable. But that's it. That is the DeathWatch that I'm bringing today. All right, guys, that is the DeathWatch that I'm bringing today, and also to the GT this weekend. I played a kind of a small GT this past weekend. They did pretty well. I went 3-2. Not bad about that. One of my losses was only by 2 points. And actually, overall, I was 6th place out of 18. But if we take away the win-loss, I actually had the second most number of battle points. So I'm happy with that, especially having been so new to the edition and had to play in some tough armies. I had to play in Imperial Knights. I played into Thousand Sons. I played into Necrons. I played into Custodes. A lot of tough armies to play into. So I had a good time with that, and I had a good time with these guys. I don't think I'm going to win any GTs anytime soon, but I don't feel bad about taking them. I'm not going to get kicked around the table too much. All right, guys, so follow me over to the battle report. We'll see how they do against DJ's Great Knights tonight.